Hi, good afternoon. My name is Dr. John Guerra, and I'm running for House District 41 down in Hidalgo County. Tonight, or really this afternoon, I have the great opportunity and ability to question our next 13th Court of Appeals Justice, Mr. Aaron Peña. Just a little bit of history concerning him. He was a former House District Representative that way back in 2010 saw the light between Republicans and Democrats and came to the right party, the Republican Party. And since then, he has been representing the Republican Party throughout the state. While he was this chairman, he had the great opportunity of being the committee chairman of the Criminal Jurisprudence Committee. And so from there, with that introduction, let's get started on this question and answer with Aaron Peña, our next Court of Appeals, 13th District Justice.
Hey, doctor, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm coming from Austin. I have a little bit of a break. I didn't get a chance during the holiday to get away. So I got away today and I came to Austin to see my son. And unfortunately, or fortunately, as we all say, I get to talk to you today, okay? Because this is really important for all of the constituents that are going to be under the jurisdiction of the Court of Appeals of the 13th Court of Appeals. So to start off with this, would you just kind of let us know a little bit of information concerning yourself?
Oh, sure, doc. So I am from the Valley, from the border community. I've raised my family. I have 5 children, and they have had children. So I have, I'm fortunate to say I have 14 grandchildren.
Excellent.
And as I like to shock the people who listen to me on the campaign trail, believe it or not, and it's hard for me to believe too, but I have 14 great-grandchildren. So we're making Republicans down in South Texas.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah, so let me continue, I guess. Beyond that, I just always a big shocker for me because I have to go back and count. And it's tough just to remember all the great grandkids because there's so many of them. Okay, so I've raised my family. I went on to law school in Houston, and then after law school, I moved back to the Valley to practice law, where I've done so for 33 years. I was a trial lawyer. I was in trial every Monday. Had about 12 to 14 cases scheduled for the docket, and I did nothing but trials. I mean, I was a courtroom lawyer like you would see on the television. Most lawyers practice in their offices, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I was in the courtroom. That's what I did. I always wanted to do that because my father was a trial lawyer, so I wanted to be the best I could be. And I eventually became board certified. Tried hundreds of cases and enjoyed them. They went up to the appellate courts, even had cases go to the Supreme Court of the United States. After a period of time, we had a tragedy in my family. I lost a son, and that was a really turning point in my life. I tried to find meaning in his passing, and I dedicated myself to public service. I went away from the courtroom practice and said, well, I needed to do something more. So I ran for the legislature. I ran on a campaign of the nuts and bolts of my community and the needs in my community. At the time, we saw the rise of drugs and drug cartels. And so one of my major points in running was we're going to build drug treatment centers, and we're going to fight against the rise of drugs in the community. I was elected. I served there for 10 years. As a result, I was early on, I was put on the Appropriations Committee, which is a fairly prestigious position. I was made chairman of 3 different committees, including the chairmanship of criminal jurisprudence, where we drafted the criminal laws of the state. That was very exciting and good work. We did some great things while serving there. I finished my time in the legislature and then went on to go work in the legal section of for 3 statewide Republican officers. I worked for the Department of Agriculture, where I was the assistant general counsel there. And then I went to go work for the General Land Office, where I was the head of the litigation department. And we did some great cases there in protecting the state. When the federal government tried to take pieces of Texas away, we fought back. When the BP oil spill occurred, we made sure to get money for Texans for the damage done to our coastal areas. And I thoroughly enjoyed that work. I reached a point where I saw myself continuing to work in the litigation section for a period of time, but another turn happened in my life. My father, who's now in his late 80s, had open heart surgery, and he had multiple bypass surgery. So I came home to take care of him and my elderly mother, and they're still with us, and I'm enjoying my time with them. But I took a job which is very fruitful, taking care of veterans, making sure that they have low interest loans available to them, knowing about the cemetery, the state cemeteries, knowing about the nursing homes that are available to them, and just basically making sure that South Texans, those who are veterans and their families, knew about their state benefits. And I continue to do that today.
Well, that's excellent. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm at the final part of what to get us to this point. So as I'm working down in South Texas, down on the border, I see that there is a position opening on the Court of Appeals. Now, the Court of Appeals has 6 justices, and they have historically, since its inception, been all Democrats. And so we have a fairly liberal court. It has been overturned more so than any of the other courts, the appellate courts in the state. And I just didn't think that was right. I thought that the conservative perspective needed to be reflected on that court. Now, last cycle, we elected 2 Republicans. So we're 1 short of having a balance of power. And this 1 seat can be won. I've won in South Texas 5 times, was overwhelmingly supported by my community. And I believe I can win this one. I believe I have the experience. I certainly have the trial practice. I mean, I probably had a larger docket than most lawyers will ever see in their lifetime. And so the courtroom is not foreign to me. When it comes to drafting the laws of the state of Texas, I was intimately involved in drafting laws. Most of the laws that you think about today, many of the laws you think about today, went through my committee. And so I'm looking forward to stepping up, because I believe that in South Texas, we deserve fair representation. That is, those of us with a certain conservative perspective, and we can win that seat. And I just need the chance from the people out there to, 1, get to know who I am, get to know my experience, and then let's go and win this thing. That's what I believe we can do.
And that's fabulous. That's great. Well, what do you see as some of the challenges once you get elected for the 13th Court of Appeals?
Well, I think restoring a philosophical balance is really the challenge that really needs to be confronted by the community, not really myself, because should I get elected, I feel comfortable that the values I was raised with, the principles that I believe in, will be reflected in the decisions made before the court. No longer will we be dictated to by a certain perspective, and we'll have a chance to have a fair argument so that decisions that are consistent with the philosophy of the state will reign rather than being overturned more so than any other court. you will see this court be reflective of the community and of the state.
So, Aaron, one of the big things that comes to mind, I'm a physician. I'm not in the legislative part, but I hope to be there in the future here. But one of the biggest things that I have always looked at and talked about, and that is the wall or the division between state and religion. How would you, as a judge, be able to administer?
Well, that's quite easy in that we have a constitution of the United States and of the state of Texas. And as long as we use that as our roadmap, I think that the sensibilities and the perspectives that we all have will come forward. And quite honestly, if our perspective on the Court of Appeals is not reflective of the state, there is another court higher than ours that reviews our work and will set the standard for what reigns or rules or what the rule of law is for the state of Texas.
And Mr. Peña, also another big question that comes to me quite often, and that is that especially in this day and time, as we are seeing this big divide between liberals and conservatives, how do you expect the 13th Court of Appeals to be administering its legalness since this country is being divided so much on a lot of legal matters?
Okay, so most of our laws, if not all our laws, come from the legislature. They're the ones who decide what the law is. It's not the job of judges to make law out of whole cloth. It's our job to follow the legislative intent and to interpret laws based on what their desires were. After all, the people speak not necessarily through judges, they speak through the legislators. Now, obviously, we judges have a certain perspective. We were raised with certain values, and those values are reflected in our administration of the cases that we review. Those choices are ultimately made. The judges are ultimately chosen by the people, and that's why we have elections. So people will elect us, and then we will review cases based on fact, based on evidence presented, based on the Constitution as we understand it, but also based on the intent of the legislature, not the judicial branch. We don't make laws. That is the job of the legislature.
Right. Those are fabulous answers. That will help me as a physician proceed. And in my campaign race, will be using some of these answers that you have educated me. So would you like to tell all of the people here more information about your campaign and how people are receiving you across the eastern part of Texas and South Texas?
Well, let me first tell you, it's been a real experience. There are 20 counties going all the way from the border up to the edge of Houston, to the edge of San Antonio. So I spend most of my time traveling in my car. I once had a fairly new car. It now has 40,000 miles on it. But that's provided me a wonderful opportunity to meet people in different parts of the state. Bay City, I was there the other day. They have a wonderful town square. The people are wonderful. Hallettsville, another place that I visited, Victoria, Corpus, San Patricio. I was in Atascosa the other day. We are a wonderful community, and we are truly a unique part of Texas, and it makes me more proud to be a Texan now that I've traveled it. Okay, so in my travels, I go around and I communicate with people, tell them about the court and what it does, about the opportunities that we have here. And I've received overwhelming support. People have been very kind. and they've been very supportive. As a result, I've picked up endorsements from over 50 statewide. Now, I'm talking statewide, not just locals, but also mayors, city council members, community leaders, business people. People, for example, like Jose Aliceda, who's the district attorney in B County. He just yesterday gave me his endorsement. And I really, that was really heartfelt because he is the lead law enforcement officer in that county. He has spent years toiling away in the courtroom, and yet he has the trust in me that he thinks I can do a good job in being a judge. I've got the endorsement of the Texas State Agricultural Commissioner, Sid Miller. Sid Miller has put his trust in me, but probably what's unique about this circumstance, he's up for office himself. He has an opponent, and his opponent, James White, has also endorsed me. So to have both of the competing candidates in the Republican primary, who may not be agreeing on a whole lot of things, but agreeing on my running for this position, having faith and trust in me, that really is heartwarming to me. But I also have, if you don't mind, I'll just keep going down the list. I also have the support of state senators. I have the support actually from the Trump White House of their senior, one of their senior advisors there. I've got National Board Member Rick Figueroa, who's an NRA board member. I've got mayors of my community. I've got 15 to 20 or so state representatives, doctors, lawyers, business people, and I'm just really overwhelmed with the support that's come our way, mainly because they want to see a change. And that change is reflected in what we saw in the last election cycle, which is to bring a perspective that is shared by most South Texans, which is conservative, which is pragmatic, which wants good government. Sadly, in deep South Texas, we've had a number of corruption cases that are fairly troubling to most of the citizens, as they are to me. And I think people are just tired of it. And they want to see people who are committed to public service. And that's something that I offer to them. My life has been one of public service in the legislature, in the community, in the efforts to fight drugs and to have drug rehabilitation for some of our young people. These are things that I've worked on, things that I believe in, working for veterans. I can recall walking with veterans from the border all the way to San Antonio. We took a walk back a few years back because we believe that the veterans of Deep South Texas deserve to have the medical options that were available to the larger cities. And as a result, we got a super VA clinic down here. The veterans down here are deserving of some of the benefits that they earned. And so I've done some of those things. This is just part of my history and what I offer to the people in asking for their support and their vote.
Well, that's fabulous. And I also support all our veterans, tremendous amount of veterans from the Rio Grande Valley. So, Aaron, last of all here, how can we follow you on social media? How can we follow your campaign? And especially to get people to send some donations to your campaign, because as in my campaign and everybody campaigning, we need some money to really get our word out there. So please let us know what are your social or what is your social information here?
Well, let me first say that, I am on Facebook. I actually use the Facebook account myself. I have both a personal page and a campaign page. And quite frankly, I enjoy just traveling down the road and telling people about what it's like to be a candidate, the places that I go, the people that I meet. But I also have a traditional website, aaronpeña.com. And that's Peña without the tilde, or the wavy line above the N in Spanish lettering, aaronpeña.com. And on that, we talk about my background, the things I believe in, the history that I've had, and my experience as an attorney, a litigator, legislator, and as a community person who who really love South. I mean, I really love this community. And as I said, the more I drive it, the more I love it. And I think if you go to those websites, you can do as you suggested.
Well,
Either
thank you
learn
very,
or donate if you wish. That's really tough, but I really, I'm taken aback by people who've been donating to our effort to keep us going, to pay for the gasoline, to pay for those hotels along the road. I'm overwhelmed by the support. I'm looking forward to the primary, which starts on Valentine's Day. The primary election is on March the 1st. You still have time right now to register to vote. And I would encourage people to do so, not just for me, but for good people like the doc here and other candidates that are right thinking, who believe in this state and want to bring you good government.
well, Aaron, thank you very much. And we will be seeing you on the campaign trail. And I would just like to say that we want to thank HRT, or Hispanic Republicans of Texas, who are helping us with this interview and showing the candidates. And so we just want more Hispanics to come on board and realize that the Republican conservative party is really where we need to be. So you have a great rest of the afternoon.
God bless you, Doc, and God bless everybody who's listening.
Thank you very much.